Hello, welcome to the channel that aims to bring some light into games left in the dark. This is From the Void. Today, we will be looking into some hidden gems or underappreciated games on the Nintendo Switch. Games that I feel deserve more attention, whether because not enough people know about them or realize how good they are. If you enjoyed this and want to see more hidden gems on the Switch, please consider subscribing to the channel to help me keep making these. We open today's list with a total killer of a game, HUNTDOWN. The graphics are highly detailed pixel art and manage to create an awesome looking dystopian future where street gangs have taken over. This game throws a truckload of 80s reference at the player. It almost feels like you're in a RoboCop movie or something. You pick one of 3 mercenaries working for the highest bidder against the gangs that take control of most of the city. The gameplay is the best part. This is a side-scroller shooter with just a little bit of platforming and exploration to find some collectibles, and nothing else. And let me say this right now, it nails the gameplay, to the point where I can safely say that this is one of the best side-scroller shooters out there. And the reasons for this are just a bunch of simple things put together. Number 1. Both you and the enemies have plenty of options for protection against incoming bullets, and not only behind obstacles but inside doors and gates too. However, this doesn't save you from incoming melee attacks, so you gotta keep that in mind. Number 2, and speaking of melee attacks, anytime you get close enough to an enemy, your fire button will instead kick them, pushing them back as well as causing some damage. When you get the hang of this mechanic, it feels awesome to use it in your favor. Number 3, the boss fights. The freaking boss fights are the best. There is one at the end of each stage, and they provide a lot of variety to this game. It's insane. And number 4, just how responsive the whole game feels. I never felt like I failed because of bad controls. HUNTDOWN starts easy, but the second half turns it into a true challenge, especially in the hard mode, especially in some of the final boss fights, and specifically this one against this old guy here. HUNTDOWN will take you 6 hours to complete once. There's plenty of incentives to do it over again. If anything, to see all the characters' endings, or maybe to tackle some of the higher difficulties. Also, the whole game can be played in co-op, which is great. This is a shooter that comes close to perfection in the gameplay in my opinion, so if you're into shooters, do not skip HUNTDOWN. Next up, a puzzle of colors. This is Hue. Hue starts off monochromatic. Everything is black or shades of grey. The graphics themselves are not the focus here, but the colors are, or rather, the lack thereof in the beginning. As you progress, you unlock each of the colors of the rainbow, one by one, and each time you do, you can paint the background of that color. The juxtaposition of colorful backgrounds and pitch black everything else creates a very interesting effect in my opinion. You control Hue, who is in search of his mother, following on her footsteps. You come across several letters from her, which are all voiced over, and very well done voiceover by the way. The music is also a highlight, providing a bunch of beautiful and soothing piano melodies. Hue is a puzzle game where you can remove portions of the scenery by painting the background in the same color. And the ways that the developers use this mechanic are very imaginative, as they keep throwing new types of puzzles at you. There is also a little bit of platforming involved, but the focus is much heavier on the puzzle side. The final third of the game can feel a bit overwhelming at some parts, but the satisfaction of beating each of the puzzles is enough incentive to keep going. There are a number of collectible Erlenmeyer flasks to find, but I did not like backtracking to find some of them. I felt like this was the worst thing in the game actually, but those are optional, so not a big worry. If you skip the collectibles, he will last you around 5 hours, but you'll have to add a couple more hours if you want to find all the flasks. In conclusion, this is a creative puzzler that is totally worth playing for fans of the genre, in my opinion. Looking for some fast-paced shooting chaos? Look no further. This is Galaxy Champions TV. Graphics-wise, this is a shiny and colorful game, which helps with the gameplay that will require you to distinguish your guy from the foes, as well as spot enemy projectiles flying around in midst of total chaos. You are this unspecified little helmet guy here, who is a participant in the most violent TV show ever, trying to survive his way to becoming a champion. Gameplay-wise, this emulates the classic arcade game Smash TV. It's a twin-stick shooter with a bunch of power-ups to collect, in which each screen will throw wave after wave of enemies at you. And after a number of screens, there will be a boss encounter. Defeated enemies drop these orb things, which you collect to level up. If you do level up, at the end of the screen, you can pick one of 3 or 4 power-ups of your choosing to improve your guy. Your choices make a huge difference, and it's fun to explore the different combinations of power-ups until you find your ideal set. Overall, it's a satisfying gameplay, although not a very original one. There are 2 modes to tackle. The arcade mode, where you can choose the difficulty and will have a set number of lives, and the Champions mode, where you have 1 life and it's only 1 difficulty. This is the toughest challenge and will require some patience, because if you get unlucky with the power-ups, you will have a hard time getting very far. The whole game will last around 5 hours if you go for the Champions mode, so it's a short one, but it's also inexpensive, going around for $7 in the North American eShop, and I always see it discounted to $3 or $2 even. This is not the best twin-stick shooter by any means. Geometry Wars 1 and 2 and Nex Machina come to mind as superior games to this, but neither are on the Switch, and nonetheless, this is a perfectly decent option to scratch your itch for twin-stick shooters if you have one. Now for an unusual indie game with an interesting and unique gameplay, The Gardens Between. In the visuals department, this game stands apart, with each stage taking place in a detailed and surreal diorama. You control 2 neighbor friends at once as they sort of relive their moments together before one of them has to go away since their family is moving out. However, you don't control them directly, and this is what's unique about this gameplay. Rather, by pressing back or forward, you control the flow of time, and at some points of the stage you can have one of the friends interact with the environment, and you will need to go back and forth in the flow of time to solve the puzzles and move forward. So if we would place this game in a category, I guess this would be a reverse on-rails puzzle game, because you control the rails directly instead of the characters, which is crazy to think. This is not a super challenging game, but some puzzles will likely stump you, but nothing that a few trial and error attempts can't solve in a minute. This is a short game lasting around 2, maybe 3 hours, but I felt it was very worthwhile for the novelty of the gameplay and the creativity involved. And this is also a completely stress-free game on the Switch, so if you're looking for something cozy to fill in a couple of hours, consider The Gardens Between. Mix anime-style graphics with cook-off contests in a puzzle-based gameplay and spice it up with combat against monsters in your backyard, and what do you get? Battle Chef Brigade, that's what you get. The graphics are anime-style, so enough said, you either love it or hate it, and I love it. You control Mina Han, a very determined chef apprentice who wants to pass the exams to become a chef in the Brigade. And in order to do so, she will have to defy her parents, who pretty much decided her future for her, demanding that she takes on the family business. So she has a tough decision ahead of her, and it's interesting to see how she handles the dilemma of not knowing what is the right thing to do, which makes her a very relatable character. The gameplay here is divided into 3 parts. Before doing the actual cooking, you gotta go to the backyard and kill some monsters to collect their monster parts, which is super weird, but okay. This portion of the gameplay is kinda weak, actually. I never felt like there was enough depth to it, but it connects to the second part, so there is some strategy involved in choosing which enemies to kill and which parts to collect, since you have a limited time to do so. Then you get yourself to the actual cooking, and this is where the game gets much better. You use parts you collected strategically to transmute them into taste spheres or something, and then it's a matter of matching the spheres in order to make the dishes taste as the judges want them to. You're always running against the clock in these cook-offs, which makes each of them really thrilling, and I enjoyed it a lot. Afterwards, there is the whole talking to NPCs and buying new tools to improve your chef skills and doing some side quests, which is fine too. As for the difficulty, there is a challenge, but not too much, which I felt fit just right to this game. It will take around 10 hours to finish it. In conclusion, this is a very unusual mixture of genres, which results in an odd but very interesting game. If you're into any of the ingredients here, I would give this a shot, if anything to have a very different experience. This next entry on the list is a weird one, but surprisingly fun. Bomb Chicken. I admit that by the title, this doesn't sound like a great game maybe, but it actually offers some quality fun. Even the look of it is surprisingly well done, although there is not a lot of variety on the stages. The setting here is all kinds of weird. You control this chicken that somehow got spliced up with the ability of laying bombs instead of eggs. And apparently there is a whole scheme to make people, or these weird guys that pass as people, addicted to fast foods. And there's a whole mining operation going on too. I don't know, it's bonkers and they really don't explain it very well. Where the game shines is in the gameplay. Your chicken can't jump, instead it can lay stacks of bombs, but they detonate within a few seconds, and the explosions will kill your chicken, so you gotta move fast. You can also shove your bombs forward by simply bumping into them, and that is also used to solve puzzles or defeat enemies. The game is a mix of platforming with action and puzzles too, so there's a lot of variety in the challenges, and it also becomes quite difficult towards the end, although the game is a bit on the short side, lasting around 5 hours. Or if you want to gather all the secret jewels, it can last 1 or 2 hours more. The jewels will grant you extra hearts, which will help you a lot in the end of the game, so I suggest going for them. Overall, this is a fun little game with a gimmick that actually provides some interesting and unique gameplay. This may be a tough sell, but I recommend it. Another game that goes for a completely unusual mixture of elements is Yoku's Island Express. This one has a gorgeous art style that fits just right to illustrate the tropical island setting where you control a little bug guy who is a postal officer. Now this is why I love video games so much. This is a pinball Metroidvania. How crazy is this? You can move your little bug normally, but it is attached to a ball, so he has trouble going uphill. And conveniently scattered throughout the world are these blue and yellow pods that you control with the L and R buttons respectively to bump the ball forward, and that's how you move around. And listen, I know this is yet another tough sell. It was to me too. I thought, well, maybe this is not for me, I'm not really into pinball games, but I reconsidered upon closer evaluation, and I'm so glad I did, because this absurd mix of genres actually works surprisingly well. The game fittingly focuses on exploration, which is a big aspect of Metroidvanias, and since moving around is not simple at all, they used clever level design to make it fun and challenging, getting from point A to point B. Every once in a while, you'll find some proper pinball sections that actually look like a pinball machine, and in some of these there will be even some boss fights. There are also some other ways to move around, like diving and swinging from these flower things, as well as these awesome cannons, but all these will have to be unlocked as you play the game. There's a ton of collectibles to find, and some are really well hidden, and this is where the toughest challenges lie in the game. But finishing it is not as hard, and should take you around 8 hours. Yoku's Island Express is really fun and a testament of how boundless human creativity can be. Hey, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episode. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and sharing this with your friends. See you later.